Lads, we are back.
Yep.
We are.
Don't know why I sung there.
We should do it more often.
I don't know about that.
Every episode.
No.
No?
So
When someone takes a turn each episode to sing something.
like
we
Ben
I don't know.
Hutton singing "I'm a Barbie Girl."
I love that.
it.
Like
That video is incredible. He's a rock star.
He is a gem. You have to keep him. You need the character. You need that character on the team.
Yeah,
he should be starting. I don't care.
He balances out like the renewed grit of this team.
Ben, okay, hold your horses there. I think he's a seventh defenseman right now. Let's.
But first in our hearts.
But like Ben Hutton. This is a big show, eh? The trade deadline was Monday.
Mm-hmm.
It was very exciting.
We did no work. We just. Did you guys have a lecture? I had a lecture, and
I did, yeah.
I was so distracted.
I did. I was my online lecture, like it was asynchronous, so I did that on Friday before, so I didn't have.
You're irresponsible.
Yeah.
We should learn from Alex.
I had one 10 to 12, but like if it was like a normal year and the deadline was at 12 itself, I would have been worried. But once I found out it was at 3, I was like, okay, nothing's gonna really happen. And I don't think anything actually did until like 2:30, like normally. Yeah. But like all the trades were the night before, the big ones.
Yeah. I overanalyzed all the small ones because I just needed that substance throughout the day to make it worth it that I was online the whole day.
I was ready to go to bed the night before, and then it's like boom.
Yeah,
we all were. Then it's boom, like Bob McKenzie's like, "Hey guys, by the way, Jeff Carter's getting traded. Excuse me. Oh, the Leafs got David Rittich. Excuse me. Oh, and by the way, Taylor Hall's going to Boston. Like, what is happening here?" Like,
I laughed with the Taylor Hall one where it's just the suspense of it, where it's like, I hear Curtis Lazar is being traded.
Yes. And then Dreger's like, it may be something more. And you're like, okay, good.
I'm staying up.
Yeah. And then, we're scrambling to make the graphics. It was weird. I wasn't a massive
Sorry
fan.
Again about the font.
No, that doesn't matter.
Okay.
Listen, as long as you're on time to the podcast, who cares about the graphics?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, I feel like we could have a much more relaxed, open discussion show. I feel like sometimes we're a bit too tight-collared.
We're too serious.
Collar. We're going to be blue collars today.
We're not 1970s sports analysts.
I was going to try and do something there. I don't know what a 70s.
Like they have the
nasally
the anchor voice. Yeah, the nasally anchor voice.
The Ron Burgundy voice.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to try and do that. I'm not going to. It's that, or it's like the further back you go and like how the quality of mics are so bad, it just sounded like, and well, the Battle of Britain commenced in such a way where the RAF bravely fought off the Luftwaffe.
I don't remember that in a hockey game.
What?
I don't remember that in a hockey game.
And there's the first line of the Toronto Maple Leafs landing on the beaches. Because like they went to war. It wasn't, or at least like players back then had second jobs, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure there are NHL players that served in the World War, like in.
Oh yeah, there definitely were.
Yeah.
Was the NHL around for World War I?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. It was.
Was it?
Yeah, but they didn't play. Maybe it wasn't the NHL, but there was professional hockey, and I.
I figured that, but was the NHL itself is one thing, because obviously there was. Like there were those pre-days when it was like still the Sens, like the St. Pats, the Habs were still like they might have been like the Montreal Maroons. Anyway, who cares? But
not for the Boer War, I think.
Like we could probably think Maurice Richard was probably scoring 50 in the sun in like the winter, and then in the summer he was, who knows? Maybe he was serving in Egypt. I don't know. But there must be some players that would have done it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah. World War nothing is quite as interesting to study as World Wars. I don't know what it is. They're fascinating.
That I will agree with you on.
Yeah. So throughout the show, we're gonna look at Leafs. We're gonna look at the Habs. We're gonna look like the second game they had, but like that's towards the end. That's not the biggest thing here. We're gonna look at some individual trades, some stuff that turns out might not have happened. First though, guys, I want to ask you. Your winners and sellers of the deadline. let's not do honorable mentions yet.
Yeah,
So
Alex?
we'll start with the buyers, and we'll start with Alex.
Sorry, you want me to break down the winners and losers for buyers? Is that
No, just give me one. Just give me one buyer for. I want to see all three of our buyer best winners here.
Okay, if I say the Leafs, will you guys think I'm biased?
No,
You know, no one voted for ours. You know, on our poll, no one voted for the Leafs. The Foligno one. Where I'm like, what was like the best deadline deal? And then no one voted
because
for it.
Foligno was a good. We'll talk about it. Foligno was a good thingy. The deal itself is bad because it was a first. Mm-hmm. But looking at give your reasoning why it's the Leafs. Because I think it's a good bet.
I think it's the Leafs because for me, when I looked at what each team needed for the deadline, and we did it over the last 4 weeks, I feel like the Leafs accomplished everything that they were looking for. They got a third string goalie who was better than a third string goalie. They brought in a depth defenseman so Martin Merchant doesn't have to play in the NHL. Mm-hmm. They brought in some depth forwards, right? Like Stefan Noesen probably won't touch the NHL, but if there's injuries, he can play. And then they brought in a guy who can play on the second line in Nick Foligno. And I think we'll talk about that trade because I don't necessarily think it's as bad as people make it out to seem, but it is a little bit pricey. Mm-hmm. I just think Nick Foligno really fits what the Leafs were looking for. So
the reason I'm being asking you to be careful when it comes to honorable mentions is because there wasn't a lot of teams here. So our options are a little limited. But Daniel, buyers, honorable mentions, who do you have? Or sorry, who is your best buyer of the deadline?
For me, it's hard. It's really difficult because like we did not really have a lot of teams. Like if I like go on what Alex said, like I would have to say like in terms of checking off a list, I'll have to say it really was the Leafs where they kind of did what they needed to, and like what Elliot Friedman kind of mentioned, like they kept their top guys there without sacrificing anything. And I think like just one thing too is I know it was the price of the first round pick for Nick Foligno, but again, like, and I've said this so many times, like I'll look at Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman. That I know this is the biggest example that people have mentioned, but the way I see it is I think the Goodrow one was fine because they got Tampa got a third back in that deal. But I think the Blake Coleman one is a bigger overpay than it was for Nick Foligno because they also gave away it was Nolan. Which Foot brother was it again? Nolan Foot. Yeah. Who was 27th like that past June, and then they gave up another first that became 20th.
I don't think you can compare any of the I don't think you can compare those two deals because it was, and Alex mentioned this one, I forget how it came up. They had the extra year, which is so important. Like without those good contracts, Tampa are not as strong as they are. And God damn it, I hate them. I have Toronto on my list as well. And for argument's sake, I'll say Tampa in a second here. But the big thing with the Leafs is bringing in like literally everything for every position. The only roster player they gave up was Barabanov. And he's not even an everyday guy. I don't think there is a real sort of thing of saying the Leafs were the number one buyers. But like, for argument's sake, because we're going to sound like the TSN panel here in a second if we just keep going Toronto, even though we're going to spend a lot of time because we focus on them and the Habs here. I also think we have to mention Tampa Bay because they set a new sort of way of trading in this flat cap era with this whole middle ground team. And the fact that they got David Savard for $1 million is just so dumb. And I seriously can't stand Tampa Bay. I still, by the way, think that they're like the best team in the league. But it honestly, and like sellers, by the way, going off here, I think the best sellers were Columbus by far.
Yeah. For all those UFAs.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have 3 first rounders now, with theirs included, for Savard, for Foligno. Got some fourths in there too. They really, really did well. I mean, that's how you start off. For another team that we're going to talk about later probably could have learned a thing or two from Jarmo Kekalainen here.
Who's that?
We're talking about him. Well, who is trying to rebuild and probably got some pretty crap returns on some UFAs. It may be Buffalo, who we're going to get to in a second.
Is it Buffalo?
It's Buffalo.
Just took a guess there.
You know, okay, this came to mind, but I think one team that was kind of underrated as well, and they did pretty well, not just with the trades, but just kind of putting pieces here and there, and it's been the Florida Panthers. Where I know like there's a degree of risk with Nikita Gusev, but you know, it's a low risk thing that they've been able to kind of turn, you know, these forwards around for their seasons. You know, like Brandon Montour, I like him a lot. We mentioned him last episode.
Yeah.
But again, I think with Sam Bennett, I think like that's just the move you go for a guy that could play a natural center and be in a top 9.
Let's hold off on Bennett because we are spotlighting that trade a little later.
Yeah. It just, I guess, again, what you said, for argument's sake, I would add the Florida Panthers in that conversation as well.
Yeah. Any other good sellers we want to mention here?
I just want to mention Detroit.
Yeah,
they didn't do a whole lot yesterday. I think they only made one trade, did they not? It was the
Mantha deal.
And it was the Mantha deal. The only reason I'm putting them in there is because they got such a haul for Mantha.
Yeah.
Like they got a first, a second, Jacob Vrana, and I mean, I guess Richard Panik was a throw-in, but they need to hit the floor. So
yeah,
there we go. There's a contract for that. So I think they did really good yesterday.
Another guy I want to spotlight: Chicago and Stan Bowman. A second for Yenmark. I really liked what they sort of did here. Okay.
Did we just compliment Stan Bowman?
We did last episode.
We've been doing that like lately.
Highmore deal was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
They sell high on him though.
He just had like this string of 2-3 deals that just really caught up with him. And like let's not forget, he's the only GM in God knows how long to build a 3 cup winning team.
I know.
Okay.
I found ironic before we move on with Chicago.
Sure. Yeah.
I just found it ironic that he took back salary to get, you know, prospects in it, and I'm like, wait, isn't this usually like him on the receiving end for this?
Right.
Good on him, man. Listen, Vegas, they're a weird team. They're really weird. They're always in on everyone. Okay, losers of the deadline. I have Carolina because Tampa got Savard. Florida got Montour and Bennett, who is a proven playoff performer. I think he's a bit of an underrated defenseman, but I just don't think Yanni Hakanpää is what is going to put Carolina at the level. The teams they need to beat in the playoffs got better. I don't think Carolina themselves did.
I think they overvalued Hakanpää as a right-hand shot and for the grit because he does play that Ducks kind of that type of way where like, you know, he'll drag you through the mud.
Oh yeah.
And I think in a way they overvalued it, but they also kind of looked at like they're not going to keep Hayden Fleury anyways for the expansion draft. But I think I agree with you. The disappointment there was that I thought they were going to use one of the defensemen that are not getting as many minutes as they should in a deal to get a goalie.
That's fair. Alex, what do you? Who is your buying team that disappointed you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Carolina as well because I feel like they're the only buying team, and we've already said there weren't many to begin with that didn't really make that impactful a move. You brought up the guys in their division. Like you look at what the guys in the East did, every single top 4 team made a move, an impactful move, whether it was Monday or before that. Even in the West, Colorado and Vegas made their moves. Even though they were small ones, they still shored up that depth. We never really saw Minnesota to make that big a move. And then the only one was Winnipeg, who I would have liked to make a bigger move. Mm-hmm. But I guess I understand the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, your seller that disappointed. Sorry, your buyer that you thought, man, you could have done more.
Like I mentioned Carolina already. I think for me it was kind of Vegas because I know they got Janmark, and they're a team that I think I've just got so accustomed to the big move from them, where they've shown that they're not afraid to kind of get someone out of that core and make and like change the dynamic completely. I remember they had the rumors about Pacioretty, which is something where I really kind of felt that maybe they'll circle back to it and see what they can do. That's certainly something that wasn't there, but I think that Janmark is a solid one, but it was just kind of for me maybe just because of the standard that was there before that I said, okay, like that's it. Like I wanted the splash.
Fair enough. Okay. Do you guys have a seller that disappointed you that wasn't Buffalo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay. Then Alex, take us off first. Then Daniel. Then we'll talk about Buffalo because they're my big one here.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, I feel like they're the obvious choice, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's a couple asterisks there for different reasons. But I'm gonna go with Vancouver. I wasn't a big fan, and I know Daniel wasn't either because he was very vocal about that in the group chat on the Adam Gaudette deal. And I saw a couple guys out of Vancouver, Harman Dial, Thomas Drance. Like, yes, it seemed like they sold really low on him. And Benning seemed to made it out to seem that, they just weren't impressed with what they saw from Adam Gaudette this year. And it feels like every single team, like the teams knew that, and that's how they ended up with that deal. They were able to get some assets, but I wasn't really entirely sure about that Madison Bowie deal. It was a weird deadline for Vancouver to begin with because of the COVID situation. I just didn't really understand any of the moves that they made.
Dan.
For me, it's the Ducks because I think a big thing is they had term on two guys that I really felt that they could get a lot of value on them. And I know there were conversations on it with Josh Manson and Ricard Raquel. And the way I see it is that they're more or less like in their prime. Like if I compare Anthony Mantha to a Ricard Raquel, but Raquel has been consistent. I know there's been a few injuries here and there, but the thing is that cap hit plus the extra year, they really tried. They could have just done something because the reality is like this team needs a full scale rebuild. If you wanted to keep Ryan Getzlaf there, you had to want to keep Ryan Getzlaf there for the sake of legacy. But he even is the one who stated it. Like if it made sense to get something that will help the team in the long run, he would have been traded. I remember Vegas being one of the options, and even Montreal being one of the options. And yeah, it was weird because apparently Corey Perry connection there. And he wanted to play in Canada again, maybe. I don't know. But that's the thing. Like you had a Josh Manson, you had a Ricard Raquel, and you could have gone out there and get more assets for these guys. Like again, like I know like the Mantha deal is really different, but it just I love Ricard Raquel. It's just I think Bob Murray is loving these guys way too much to not deal them because the reality is like I think they're gonna lose value on it unless they trade these guys at the draft.
You know what I like about Detroit trading Mantha is that the word seems to be, and Friedman talked about this on the 31 Thoughts post-deadline podcast, that they kind of look at the fact that by the time Detroit are good, Mantha's going to be, around 30. The Ducks, like Manson's not the youngest guy, but he's not the oldest. Same with Raquel. It sounded like the prices were really high. And like, listen, everyone was going on about the possibility of maybe some expansion stuff blocking some trades. I want to say I'd give more crap to Bob Murray if we go past the draft and these guys are still sort of there. I'll defend him a little bit. I did like he got Hayden Fleury, though I get you didn't have to really trade Raquel in that either, but at the same time, I still don't know what the Ducks are. And you're just killing John Gibson.
Yeah.
I hate it. Absolutely hate it. I didn't like what Winnipeg did. I don't like I've seen Jordy Ben play in top 6 and top 4 roles. I don't think he's going to be that much of a help to the Jets. But hey, like I get that they don't want to trade any of their big guys, but still, it's just the same thing. The Leafs got better. Did the Jets? I don't think so. Okay, so the big one here, though, for the sellers. The Buffalo Sabres traded Eric Stahl, Brandon Montour, and Taylor Hall. They got. Oh, and sorry, Curtis Lazar as well. Forgot about him. Sorry, dude. For all those players, they got a second, 2/3, a fifth, and a single body in Anders Bjork. Now, I know Hall had a no-move clause, but if I'm a GM, and maybe Kevin Adams isn't at the point where he can try and pull something like this, and it was so stupid that he got that no-move clause in the first place. Apparently, Vegas seemed to have had the best offer. Again, from Friedman and that.
What was there a first in there?
Apparently. And at the same time, apparently the Islanders had the same sort of package they gave for Palmieri. Yeah. So, and the way it seems to be like Hall wanted to be a Bruin and the no-move clause sort of clamped it up. And Kevin Adams basically said as much, and so did Hall without actually saying it. This is what you do to Taylor Hall. Okay, so you don't want to go. You want to go to Boston, we don't get a better asset. Okay, I'm not going to trade you. And you're stuck here. And your value doesn't go anywhere, and you're not getting that deal. Or you suck it up and go to Vegas. Well, you don't have to trade him now.
I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can let Taylor Hall walk.
Oh, they look terrible now. They got a second. But
they would look terrible if he was, in my opinion, Kevin Adams was in a lose-lose situation here. There was no looking good, especially the way Taylor, like, he's not, I guess he's not a sniper, but he only had 2 goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my thinking here is, if you don't trade him, Buffalo, the fans are going to criticize you, right? Mm-hmm. Like at the end of the season, why didn't you trade Taylor Hall? Whatever. But you didn't. You also got a not great package. Like Sam
traded him early too.
Sam Bennett got a similar package to what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's embarrassing too. Like, I think this was a lose-lose situation. I don't have much, like, I've seen the quotes from Taylor Hall and I do feel bad a little bit, but not really. Like, don't make it out. Like, you knew when you went to Buffalo, you were going to be the guy.
Yeah.
You were the guy next to Eichel. The day he signed, we all said it on the show, if he plays next to Jack Eichel, good things could happen. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it didn't. So I don't believe that he didn't want to be the guy.
Like, think of it like this. Like, they gave all the money to Hall.
Yeah.
So they couldn't shore up their depth. So the only thing that changes is, yeah, you have this wicked top line, but the difference between a top-heavy team like the Bruins, for example, since we're talking about them in the same strand here, is they have some depth. Like, Krejci is there. Who's the second-line center there? Like, Tage Thompson in Buffalo? Like, you know.
Oh, yeah, Reinhardt's not playing center right now, yeah.
Like, is it, like, bearing down, like, you could have at least tried and called Hall's bluff. And yeah, at the same time, like, dude, it's Buffalo. What did you expect? And it was probably the most money he was getting in the summer because he played the system and he lost. I don't feel bad for Taylor Hall at all. But I do want to say this, though. A few weeks ago, I said that in I think it was the Eastern Division deadline preview.
Yeah.
I said that the Bruins should get Johnny Gaudreau, and it would be the best environment for him because he would no longer be the guy. He would be behind the perfection line. It would be amazing. And I mentioned that because I think this is the best thing that could have happened to Taylor Hall. Like, he is going to be like probably playing with, like, I don't know, Krejci and Craig Smith, or because they seem to hate DeBrusk now for some reason. I love this, by the way, and now I guess we can kind of go to some of the individual trades here. I love this, obviously, for the Bruins. At the same time, though, because it's the Bruins, I'm sure you guys can say this as well, I hate that they got him for a second. And I'm happy for Curtis Lazar because he seems like a great guy, eating hamburgers off the ice back in his Ottawa days.
That grossed me out.
And it's just, he's a fun guy. He's a character. And it's nice to see that he's on a good team now.
Yes. Hall is playing with Krejci and Craig Smith, by the way.
What a beautiful line.
He played last night.
Good.
Imagine, finally, it took them how long? David Krejci actually has wingers that the Bruins like.
He did it.
It only took many trades and many years.
Yes.
The one thing I just kind of felt is, again, like I know that there was a bit of a bluff there, and there was kind of like there was that whole ultimatum kind of thing. But I think there's the one thing I kind of felt is maybe they could have explored the option just a little further. I know Steve Dangle is the one who tweeted that out, where it's like you trade him hours before the like you trade him the day before the actual
15
deadline
hours
day.
early.
Yeah,
what are you doing
for that package? Where I kind of felt that maybe even wait until like the next day at noon.
But do you really think it would have, like, I was thinking about that too, because I saw a lot of people saying, well, why didn't he wait until the deadline? Why didn't he wait until the deadline? Toronto wasn't, like, for example, Toronto was not interested in Taylor Hall. So that now you're one less buyer aware. How many teams, I don't know, but I wonder how many teams were actually interested in Hall, and would the deals have actually gotten that much better?
You know what? Lamorello has that saying of "you have time, use it."
Yeah,
It wouldn't have hurt. Like we gotta remember, trades don't often happen. Like these discussions, like the Mantha one, has probably been in the weeds for a while now.
Oh yeah,
yeah, probably before his extension.
Sure, like yeah, at worst, you know, honestly, maybe. God, it's so weird out of nowhere that apparently like those are two problem childs. We'll get to them later. But it's like, was the package really going to go down the next day? Like, first of all, how worse could it have gotten? I don't know. It was, and I love how they've hired Karmanos after the deadline. I'm sure there was some contracts up, but I don't know. It just seems like that's also a move. Like, good for them, but could you not have grinded that out to have it? Maybe there was something to do with like his contract in Pittsburgh. I don't know, but I feel so bad for Buffalo fans.
Yeah, they're in such a bad situation, but they also, like, not the fans, I mean the team, they put themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, management put themselves in that situation. Like, you knew, and I think the COVID stuff definitely led to that 18 game, or how, like, was it 18 or is that when it ended?
18 or 19.
Like, to that very long losing streak, it definitely applied to it. But even before COVID, before they got hit with COVID, it's not like we were seeing spectacular things from this team.
No.
Right?
They were having hard-fought battles with the Devils.
Like, it was such a poor situation. And it reminds me of when we had Harman Dial on the second time, and I asked him, do you give Jim, like, is there any benefit of the doubt for Jim Benning here? And he goes, no, like, he put himself in this situation.
Yes.
And it's not all Kevin Adams' fault. It really isn't, because they just put him in there. But man, like, that's the guy I feel bad for, Kevin Adams.
Buffalo, please get better for your fans' sake. A trade no one saw coming. And gotta love when the Bob father comes back. Bob McKenzie, just out of nowhere. Jeff Carter, who for years, anytime there was rumors around Carter getting moved, it was like, nah, I'm going to stay in LA. And he stayed. Until now, who knows how the conversation went? Maybe it was, hey, Crosby. Okay, cool. So for a pair of conditional picks, who cares? Go look it up at Cap Friendly. We don't care. The Pens get Jeff Carter. There is some shenanigans when it comes to cap recapture if he retires, but it's not that much. What do you guys think? This was such a random deal out of nowhere.
It just felt like something Brian Burke was involved in. I don't know if you guys got that same feeling, but as soon as I heard it, I thought Brian Burke. But yeah. I think it does fill a hole. How many trades have they made to try to find that third line center?
And Malkin's out for a bit.
Yeah, right. Jared McCann's not playing center right now.
Like, I think this fits. He can play. I think Jeff Carter, if he needs to, if they need him to, can play in that second line role. Mm-hmm. But as soon as Malkin comes back, like, it's Crosby, Malkin, Carter. Like, that's a really good.
It's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Like that can make some noise.
Mhm.
I saw the joke online where it's like when Brian Burke looks and sees that Jeff Carter is 6'3".
Yeah.
That he-
Sorry, go on, Daniel.
yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, I think it's just, again, it's the Penguins they're definitely a team that has been surging. We didn't really know what they were going to be like coming into the season, but despite the obvious injuries that always plague them every year, they've been able to kind of roll with it. And it's another thing where I think it's the Kings that they have to do gradually now, where they're gonna ask those championship veteran guys they're gonna ask them now, like, what's best for you as you finish your career, like what do you want to do? And I think it just fits so well for them in Pittsburgh.
I forgot what I was gonna. Yeah. So I know we give credit to Brian Burke, and I feel like we're having a bit of a rap situation where everyone's like, "Yo, Masai's the king." Let's remember, and I was like on deadline day, my mom was like, "Brian Burke." I'm like, yeah, but Ron Hextall.
Yeah.
And everyone is making this joke, so we will make it as well. Could you imagine the Penguins winning the cup with Ron Hextall and Jeff Carter? Hello, Philly. Suck it.
That would be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't know if you
Yeah,
want
sorry,
to
go
move
on.
on quickly. Just a question: Is this the oldest middle down the middle? Is this the oldest
Is
center
it?
core
Oh, might be.
in the league right now? It has to be, right?
Yeah, Vancouver, pretty young. Yeah, Kuznetsov's not as old as Backstrom.
Because that sounds 28.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah.
Not 30 yet.
10.
Backstrom's around like the same
He's
age.
33.
All these guys are in their 30s, right? So
Yeah.
Who's the second line center in Anaheim right now?
Who knows? I don't know. Sam Steele.
Okay, then never mind. Yeah, that
yeah.
offsets Getzlaf pretty well.
Oh, Adam Henry. It's like Adam Henrique Getzlaf.
If
Sam
it's
Steele.
Henrique on a given night, they may challenge that.
Because he's 31.
Yeah, and then Getzlav's 34?
35.
35. Okay. Oh, yeah,
maybe if Joe
same.
Thornton plays center, maybe.
Yeah. Remember when Patrick Marleau used to be a center? I remember that.
I did not know that.
That was when he was still like making the All-Star games.
Well, he's close to Gordie Howe's record.
Yes.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about that when he reaches that milestone. Credit where credit is due to Brad Living. Is it hold on. I always get it mixed up.
Yes.
He's Brad. His dad is the other
Jim.
one.
It's Jim. It's that
The Boston Pizza Man.
Yeah.
Good. By the way, listeners, if you ever have free time, look up the PK Subban Boston Pizza commercials. They're golden. Anyway.
Like the Bruins?
What?
They're golden like the Bruins?
No more.
What are you doing?
I'm just sorry.
What's
Just
your
Boston
game?
Pizza. Boston Pizza.
It's like,
It's just funny. They always have those playoff matchups that we all loved back in the day. But
Yeah.
it's like Boston Pizza is a Canadian franchise.
Well,
And then to have PK Subban with Boston Pizza, it's too good. And then Malcolm Subban, if we want to add another connection to that.
it's funny. I actually think there's a clip when he's serving beer, and it's either a Leafs fan or a Bruins fan, and he just tips it over towards them. It's like, yeah, suck it. I miss him so much. Yeah, obviously he was when he was a Hab. But credit
Not as a
where
Predator.
we need to talk about Brad Living. Credit is due. He was patient. Well, he's been patient for a couple of years with Sam Bennett, but he gets, and funny enough, you said it earlier, guys, I had it written down, and as a result of his patience, he gets a Taylor Hall-like return on the deal.
I have no idea how he did that.
Yeah.
But it is a side, like a good package, considering Sam Bennett did want out. Like this was out there a few months ago now, and it's Sam Bennett. Like stories, not he's good in the playoffs, but I don't remember who it was on the Sportsnet broadcast. It might have been Mike Futa actually saying his highs when he's hot, but when he's low, he is low.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Sam Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of it's kind of like a spark plug kind of thing where it's just another project for the Panthers where what you said perfectly what Mike Futa said, it reminds me of Anthony Duclair. Like when he's up there, but when he's not, then it's so obvious. And I think it's just another guy you take into Florida and try to rework that. Like so many examples like that. We've talked about Carter Verhaeghe so many times, Anthony Duclair. We've talked about Frank Vetrano. All these guys have just transformed their game in Florida. Alex Wenberg, if you want to add him as well.
Yeah, well, the Quenneville effect, man. It's really funny. It's like Duclair at his worst, Tortorella says he can't play hockey. At his best, an all-star in Ottawa. Just what a weird player. And you know what? This is only the start. You know what? The draft and the offseason, the Flames are going to be fascinating because this is when they have to really change stuff here. And Goudreau, Monahan, the time is up, unfortunately. Though, the biggest move of the deadline, no one saw it coming. No one did. No one. And it's because Steve Yzerman was involved. What a great GM he is, eh? I love Steve Yzerman.
Yeah.
The Capitals acquire Anthony Mantha. In exchange, they send Detroit Jacob Verana, the even strength goal king, as I like to call him. By the way, if he gets some real power play one time when Ovechkin's not in front of him, watch. I feel like he's going to really look like a stud. He'll also get a first this year and a 2022 second. Now, in preparation for this podcast, I'm pretty sure all of us have read 31 Thoughts. We've listened to the 31 Thoughts podcast. I listened to the Ray and Dregs one too, just to get a sense of, because this is such a fascinating deal. Like, there's so many different ways to look at this. So here's how I understand this deal technically looks if you break it down. But no matter how you look at this, Detroit are like, what a pickup here. The second rounder is really for the panic contract. The first is for the cost certainty of the top six winger in Mantha that has the term after this year because Verana needs a new deal. Okay, I think it's like a 2-year, $3 million per bridge. And then obviously you have the swap of players who apparently, we saw this with Mantha. He seemed to have been in the doghouse all year, but apparently the same with Jacob Verana, which I did not know was a thing. But a fascinating deal. And Mantha even scored in his first game when the Caps just rolled over you. It was great stuff to watch. But guys, your thoughts on a really, really, like a real blockbuster deal at the deadline. One I don't think we've seen since probably the JT Miller, Ryan McDonough trade from New York to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we almost had one last year. We were this close.
Yes.
Then it got leaked to the media, and Lou said no.
That was the Parise deal. Yeah.
Which looks even better that he didn't do that this year. Zach Parise is currently on the fourth line.
Right. I really like this deal. I think on both sides. I think I get the when you break the trade down, it still seems like a little bit of a high price, but that's fine. I think Anthony Mantha seems like the exact type of guy Washington would want because he's like Tom, like he's a power forward, but he has skill. It's like you took a little bit of Tom Wilson's aggression away and threw some skill on, and that's kind of what you get with Anthony Mantha.
Dan.
I think it's a perfect situation for him because I've been a huge Anthony Mantha fan for so long. I love his game. I remember when he was playing in the queue, I believe, and
70 goals.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I told people when he was playing for the World Juniors, I'm like, this is like Corey Perry 2.0. Like just his style of it. But at the same time, it's a better situation for him where we've talked about where there's these guys that perform well on teams that don't necessarily have the depth or don't have a direction that kind of fits his prime, like the Detroit Red Wings. And he goes into a situation now where he could just play his game and not be that guy. Where I think there was an expectation before Detroit got all these prospects where you had like a Larkin, you had a Bertuzzi, and then you had a Mantha, and then you try to make something out of it. And then some reason Franz Nielsen is signed to that kind of contract. But now I think it's even better now. I'm still unsure on why there was kind of that, I guess, that rough patch between him and management. I'm not sure where that was because they gave him that extension.
Holes, man. There's holes in his deal, in his game. That's the thing. He scores like monster. He's a monster, and obviously his numbers are going to look amazing because he's on Detroit. But like this, he reminds me of in a much different way. He's the sort of Joss Anderson, William Nylander for the Habs and Leafs comparison. Very different skill sets, I understand, but it is when Anthony Mantha is on, he is a monster. But when he's not, it's like you want to shake him because you know when he gives it his all, you cannot touch the man.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Maybe, as you're saying here, being the guy behind Ovechkin, and not to mention the cost certainty here will help because Ovechkin needs a new contract. That's pretty important. Will that help him? I don't know. Is Laviolette going to be able to get everything out of him? He's kind of that. Laviolette's always kind of stricken me as a no-nonsense coach. But I think like that's what it is. Is it weird that they gave him the big deal knowing what he was? Kind of. But I don't know if like this was Yzerman looking. It's like, okay, like if he's playing some 4D chess here and he's like, all right, listen, watch this. I'm going to make a deal here and someone's going to, I don't know. It's really, really weird that a guy who was just so clearly, especially under Blashill, has just been a problem child. I hate to use that term again, but it was very weird that they gave him the contract in the first place, but
Who knows?
it worked out.
Yeah, and I think what you've mentioned, like, it's a good point with the holes in his game where I don't think it's going to be exacerbated now because you don't have to place him so high in the lineup all the time. You don't have to give him, like, the most minutes. Like, you could give him the favorable matchups now.
Exactly. Like, listen, I love the Caps power play because it's like the second unit is like nothing, right? And then it's been the Oshie, Carlson, etc. first line power play forever, right? And that's just, and then like there's that whole at even strength afterwards that the depth guys can get. I think that's what really helped Vrana. And Mantha, if he can take advantage of it, and like I think it's normally Kuznetsov that plays with Ovechkin, right? It's him or Backstrom. Those guys get you the puck.
Yeah.
They're gonna get him the puck. He can carry the puck. There are guys that can pick up the flack when he's not on it, I think.
For sure. Even, like, I think from a Verana standpoint, too, I think this is really, really good for him. Like, I have a feeling that they just couldn't get a contract done with him. And that's one of the reasons why they did end up making that move now. And going out and getting someone like Anthony Mantha could help them. But I think the opportunities that Verana will get, especially on the power play with Detroit, could be like he's a really good player, right? So I think giving him those opportunities in different places that he might not have gotten in Washington because he's not the first thought in Washington. No. He's not even like the first four thoughts in Washington because there's so many other guys. Whereas on Detroit, he will be, yes, there's Larkin, and there's other guys, but now he's one of the first guys you think of on Detroit because they don't have a whole lot on their actual roster right now.
No, there was talk about how they liked Hronik and he was their leading scorer. I don't even think I think it was like 22 points or something. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, Detroit. Quietly horrible. Just the way they want to be. Steve Yzerman.
And they're getting the assets like everywhere. Credit to them.
And they were one of the I've sort of named the middleman team. We saw Detroit and San Jose did this. The holding some of the like player salaries to help the more cap strapped teams make deals. And again, Yzerman and Breezeball here really started something. And I think it's pretty fair to say, folks, that this is going to be the norm for a while now.
Sound like Doug Ford there. Sorry.
I was about to say the same thing. I didn't
know
if
friends.
He did that on purpose. I didn't know if he did it on purpose.
No, not at all. I can't remember the last time I said folks.
You know what?
My friends.
My mom says my friends, like when she's teaching, and I brought it up to her one day. I go, Mom, are you just stealing from Doug Ford? And she goes, no, he's stealing from me. I was saying it first, okay?
The least he could do. God, he's such a loser. God, he's such a. You see the video of that kid calling him a Timbit?
No.
I remember this Yorkdale rant. That one was the one where I'm like, oh, okay.
Anyway, my friends, we need, in these uncertain times of a flat cap era, the crap teams with cap space to help make the deadline possible. We're at the yeah. What do you guys? It's here to stay.
The broker
It's here to
team.
stay. Yeah,
probably.
but it's creative,
It
which
is.
we don't have a lot of in this league. Creativity.
No.
I'm
mean,
glad.
It happens a lot in the NBA already.
Was
When I use the example where there's not really, well, they haven't really used the term broker team. It's just there's always another team included to take on the cap, and then they get like a compensation pick or like a young guy in exchange for taking on a really bad salary. And yeah, I knew this was going to happen to the NHL. Like, I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened as often, because I remember there used to be three-way trades. Like that's actually a fun fact how Cristobal Huet went to Montreal. That was a three-way trade with Radek Bonk involved and Matthew Garon. But anyways, I'm surprised it didn't happen as often as it is now, because with the NBA, like you'll have the rich teams, or even in the MLB, you'll have the rich teams and they just have to pay a luxury tax. You don't have that option in the NHL. So I really thought that there was going to be a bit more of an urgency to make these type of deals to get them under the cap.
Retained salary is not used a lot, really, unless there is like rental. Sometimes like the Habs took some Pacioretty's. Kessel's the big one, obviously, and Detroit are up to like 2 after the deadline. I mean, like you could use this also in the future past the flat cap era. You know, there's potential there. There's potential. Kind of like apparently there was potential for a Line trade. Pierre LeBrun's on the broadcast. Columbus were listening on Line. Now there was no certain indication it was close, but it's I didn't think it was going to come this quickly, guys. I really hoped it was going to work out there, and like nothing's set yet, but I mean he finally broke his like 14-game goalless drought with a pair. But I just think that speaks volumes right now that the state Columbus are in.
Yeah, they're in a weird situation, and I tried looking at what the fans' perception is here, and it seems a little bit mixed, because I'm curious. Like, I'm sorry, I don't get to watch a whole lot of Columbus Blue Jackets games. Number one, because they're barely on sport. Like, I rarely see them on Sportsnet to begin with. It's just what, like, is it Torts? Because I see some fans saying, well, it's Line, some fans saying it's Torts, and I have a feeling it's somewhere in the middle.
Listen, Portsline had that article about how they tried to make him into a power forward that can work both ends of the ice. It's not going to work.
Halfway through a year, like, or like during a season.
Like, what are you doing? That's not his game.
And I don't think that's something you do in the middle of a season, especially this one. You want to do that in the off season? Try it.
Yeah. Again, like we used that example before too, where you've had these guys who are natural scorers, but you don't take that away from them. You just add that defensive element to them, where you show them like this is how you should back check. And I've used this example so many times. Ilya Kovalchuk, pure scorer, always had those 40, 50 goal seasons. He goes to New Jersey, he struggles in the offseason, and Lou Lamoriello talks to him. This is what you need to do if you want to be, if you want to like get the most out of your game. And he brought it back. This was the year they went back to the finals. He went back to 80 points plus. But the thing is, he didn't lose that scoring touch. He just added more of that defensive responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You can even use Matthews as an example. Like, I think if you watch Matthews throughout the last season, 1920, that there was small progressions made throughout the season, but where you saw the biggest changes was when they stopped playing in March and they started playing again in July. You saw strides that were made defensively. Then when they started again playing this season, even in the first game against Montreal, there were parts where you saw he made strides in the offseason. The biggest strides, from what I've seen, aren't really done in the regular season. It's once the season's like in the off season where most of your strides are probably going to be made.
Let him get a training camp in your system under him first before you try and change an entire player's game.
Right.
It's simple. What are you doing? You're fools. Listen.
Do you think he
These are-
holds out? I feel like he'd hold out. What do you think?
Oh, for sure.
He's gonna
If
hold out.
Torts is
First
still,
off,
oh sorry,
go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say if they extend Torts, because this is obviously his last season, under his current contract, Liney's gone. Like,
You know what? First off, he's an RFA, so he's obviously going to take a lot longer because that just seems to be the trend now. And yeah, what is the relationship with Columbus right now? Unless they're like, hey, we're going to give you whatever you want. You know,
It's like a Carmelo Anthony situation.
I would hate my boss, but if you gave me a contract worth $88 million, I'd probably deal with it.
that's true.
Or maybe he takes a bridge and demands a trade before training camp, like a certain Pierre-Luc Dubois.
It'd be funny if that happened again.
And I don't know. And then they trade him for whatever. Speaking of contracts, actually, we got a pair I really want to talk about here. Alex Iafallo, not 2 years, $4 million. AAV, 4 years. The Kings signed him. Scott Lawton, 5 years, $3 million per. Who wants to talk about who? I'll give each of you one here to have a little word about.
I'll talk about Scott Lawton.
Okay. Do you want to take it away with Scotty then?
Yeah.
One thing, sorry to set it up.
Yeah.
Contracts that I think take each player when you look at their ages right through their primes. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I was surprised by this because he really did take a hometown discount with this one because he is having a career year. And the way Scott Lawton is playing and the way the Flyers in general are playing, I really thought that he would kind of leverage this in the offseason to try to get something of higher term. Oh, no, not a term, but of higher cap hit. And in terms of this, I think it's a player that has shown that he loves being there.
Mm-hmm.
And that $3 million, if he could continue these numbers, is going to be a steal, especially when the Flyers have to consider what is Claude Giroux and Jakub Voracek. I always like Scott Lawton. I think that I'm very appreciative of the fact that they've been very patient with him because, again, he's a World Junior guy. He was the captain of the World Junior team for Canada. I've been following his career this whole time, and he was drafted back in 2012. But the fact that he's been able to kind of elevate this game at a tumultuous time for the Flyers is just astounding. And I think for how Philly is dealing with everything right now, this is definitely a plus for them.
Mm-hmm.
He plays that power forward style. He could play center. He could play the wing. So it's definitely someone that you keep around, especially at that cap hit for whatever is next for the Flyers.
Mm-hmm. Alex Iafallo. Oh, Alex Iafallo.
Yeah, this is a guy I was really high on the Leafs getting. Also, maybe it was because he was a UFA. He was going to be a UFA. We heard a lot more about him this year, but I think he could be a really good, I guess we'll call him secondary piece to what the Kings are building in the guys that they've already drafted. Like, we haven't even seen, has Quinton Byfield played in the NHL yet?
I don't think so.
No.
I'll double check though.
Like, they're building something I think really good in LA. And I think keeping Iafallo, I think he'll be 32 by the time that contract ends. Worst case scenario, you can trade it. I think by that time, it's not like it'll be a steep drop off, but he will also be a very useful piece to your core.
Quinton Byfield, no games in the NHL, but as an 18-year-old, 19 points in 26 games played with the Ontario Reign. That's pretty good.
I have a question about that for you guys.
Sure.
Do you think that after seeing all these 18 and 19-year-olds play in the AHL, that the NHL revisits the rule with the CHL?
Yeah, though I think the CHL picks up the phone and says, yeah, I hear what you're coming from, but no. I've never enjoyed watching the Laval Rocket like I have, and obviously Caulfield's older and out of college, but just seeing how fun it is watching these young guys out of the sea, like, it just feels like some people have such a warped view of the AHL. It does wonders for that league, having these young guys in, and I don't have a lot of love for the CHL for obvious reasons. If you know anything about their history, it helps. I love the AHL. I have a soft spot in my heart for it. It's such an important, underrated league. I really hope they can work something out with the CHL eventually. It's not realistic, I think. But boy, would I love to see these young guys. And like, why can't you just figure out a thing where it's like, okay, they're not playing well, send them back. Think of like a guy like Nick Robertson or Nick Suzuki when they went back after scoring like 40 goals, 50 goals. They were so above it and they didn't need it anymore. Like they were not growing in those leagues.
Weird enough, I think the best thing you brought up Robertson, the best thing for Robertson was that there was no OHL season.
Oh yeah.
Because it was either he was stuck on the taxi squad. Like, I don't know how many games he would have gone. I mean, he got injured, but either way, or he had to go back to Peterborough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's such a discrepancy there.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. There's a bit more of what Alex said, like with the Nick Robertson thing, where I really don't think that there was going to be a bit of that, going back and play that game again. Like, it's he's above that level already. That they've had the ability for him to kind of like transition slowly into it. I'm not really. I know that with the cancellations of everything, it's just going to be a weird draft.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's gonna definitely be a weird draft. Where I think like that's the reason why like we saw a lot of these picks going where people don't really know what the value of them will be. I think there's still those top guys in the NCAA, but beyond that, like in terms of the CHL, I'm not really sure like how that's gonna go. But in terms of what's been going on, I think that there should be more proposals now of changes of how old a player has to be to play in the AHL, or maybe it's going to be based on an experience thing. Because I know for sure in other leagues, especially with baseball, that you have your options, or you have a certain age where you reach something where you've showed a certain amount of experience in the major leagues or in a different level. That's what affects the contract, not the age.
There's this saying, I can't remember who said it on Sportsnet, but a prospect needs to dominate at their current level before taking the step up, right? The problem you have, and it's always talked about how different the NHL is, and it's boys to men. You cannot just simply, with every single player, go from, hey there, I was amazing in the CHL, like I'm this high-scoring guy in the queue, and then straight to the NHL, and it's otherwise, okay, so I'm too good for that league, but I'm not good enough for the NHL. And I have to wait, 2-3 years of either being overplayed or overripened to the point where I'm not getting any development. Like goalies, especially, because they need to get like you can't. I think Jeff Merrick made a really, really good point. I've never thought of this. That goalies need to get different levels of shots, and like you can't have a guy in college for 3 years. Like that was the thing for Spencer Knight. It's so important for development. I'm surprised like NHL teams have not just sort of pushed more for it too. It's like I wonder how many different careers, or how different a lot of careers would look if that bridge was sort of tweaked. You know what I mean? It's a really good question though, Alex. It would be the best thing for hockey if there was that adjustment. Shall we move on though to the Leafs and the Habs?
Yep.
Okay. We'll start with the Leafs then, because they were very busy. Very, very busy. A first and I think it was a fourth goes the way to Columbus, the first trade, and then the Leafs the other way get Nick Foligno, the captain. Really, I don't know about you guys. I've always been a really big fan of Foligno. Remember when the All-Star game was in Columbus and there was that story about his daughter? Always loved the guy. The rough and tough, up and down the lineup player that the Leafs have been looking for. I think it's very fair to say with Foligno. Was the price rich? Yes.
Yes.
Though,
but
I said a few weeks ago, like, who cares about a second or third if you're getting Sorensen if this is your best chance to win? And I will echo that now. who cares if you because you keep your best prospects.
Yep.
If you're giving up picks to get Foligno, I don't think it's that big of a dip here.
No, I saw number one, like the market, there was more than one team willing to give up a first. So I don't know what the expectation here was. For the team, like was Kyle Dubas going to call Jarmo Kekalainen and say, I know other teams are offering you a first, but I'll give you a second and I don't know, someone, right? Like it's just that's what the market was. I really like this deal, man. Like the player, he wasn't my first option. I think he was like my third in terms of forwards, but the other two guys I had were Granlund and Iafallo, and neither of them were traded. One was extended, right? So I'm happy with this. I think he can play on the second line next to JT and Nylander when he comes back, or you can make that third line a really more of a shutdown line than anything. Like you have multiple things you can do here. And I think that's the most important thing. Nick Foligno's not just going to be on your second line. He can do other things. He's probably going to be on your power play. I can't watch Joe Thornton and Wayne Simmons on my first power play unit. It is something else to watch. But that I really do like that move. I saw a lot of people complaining that the Leafs didn't go after Taylor Hall.
Yeah, I just didn't see the fit. I think the name, there was the name, but there was just not the fit.
You could say the numbers this and the numbers that.
Yeah.
Number one, the team wasn't interested. Like this just wasn't happening. They weren't interested. This was reported a couple of weeks ago, right? The Leafs weren't interested in Taylor Hall, and I also don't think it fits what the Leafs need. And he would have been a guy, right? You know how Taylor Hall said he didn't want to be the guy. It's Toronto. Everybody's a guy.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily 100% agree with that. He would he been under a microscope? Yeah, but in game, he's not like. He's not the big guy.
But if the Leafs gave up a first round pick and they were out in the first round or even the second round, Taylor Hall would have been someone a lot of people blamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough, but I agree. I didn't see the fit there either. It's just like he's the last guy you want to hold the puck on if he's playing on the second line. Like you want it with the other. You want it with Willie and JT, but I don't get why you would complain about not having Taylor Hall when, like, listen, the Leafs, they don't need a scoring help on the top six. They don't need it. There's only one puck we need to remember here.
I saw a lot of people or multiple people saying, well, there was the lack of scoring in the Columbus series. Clearly that was an issue. The issue was that no one cared. That's what the issue was. Anyone watching that series would tell you that no one on the ice cared, and they admitted it themselves. Marner said in the Game 5 press conference that he wasn't in it, that wasn't his best game. So I don't think scoring was the issue. I think you need people in the locker room, and I think they have it now that will say, hey, wake up.
Credit to Columbus too. I mean, they and Foligno was a part of that.
Yeah.
He's a system guy. Like he not offensively, but he flourished with Tortorella. Like that's a battle scar right there.
I believe it was Elliot Friedman who mentioned it. Well, he said about Riley Nash, but you could say the same thing with Foligno, where these are guys that the Leafs have faced before, where they saw how their game was and they liked what they saw and they got the best parts of it to add to their own team. And I agree. Like the Nick Foligno one, again, like we'll it's Toronto, right? You're gonna still follow. Like I still follow Tobias Bjornfot from that deal, from the Jake Muzzin deal. Like I know that no matter what, we're gonna still follow Seth Jarvis. We're gonna follow what this first round pick becomes. But like in essence, like I agree. Like the Nick Foligno one just made so much more sense because of just that flexibility he has in the lineup, and again of that that voice that he adds to the team where it's just, and we don't know if it's just a media thing, but it's just something with Taylor Hall where it's just at a risk I wouldn't want to take, and I'm kind of relieved that they didn't express that type of interest. But when it comes to someone like a Nick Foligno, it just I don't know, it sits better with me, especially with the composition of how this team is and what Kyle Dubas has done in like the last year and a half with them.
You know what you hate in the playoffs? Playing against a team that plays hard. And Foligno is going to play hard. That's what, like, the fit is obviously the puck retrieval sort of stuff, right? The dirty areas. The thing that I love the most is that no one is going to like fighting Foligno in a puck battle. No one's going to like that. And then, oh God, second line. Or for wherever he is in this case. Oh God, here's Hyman. Oh no, wait! Like, say what you want about his play. I have to. Wayne Simmons is going to try and punch me. No, Joe Thornton can be a nasty man.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Rittich?
Sir. Yeah. Sure.
Rittich.
The Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah. The depth goal. See, we were bickering. What do the Leafs need? Is it the depth defenseman? Is it the top six winger? Is it the depth of goalie? And then Dubas just did it all. So
he had the Thanos.
So
situation.
He got
like, I'll do it myself.
So Ben Hutton is the depth defenseman Alex ended up wanting. David Rittich is the goaltender I thought they needed to get. Not a bad third goalie.
Not at all.
You know what, Daniel? You make a great point there. I might try and make that graphic. By the way, it's gonna be the glove, and each stone will have someone else's face on it. Sorry, you just gave me a great.
Thank you.
Foligno, Rittich, Hutton,
Nosen, Stefan Nosen. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Just we'll put people on.
Who's the guy they got for? I forgot the name. The guy playing the AHL right now. They got for Barabanov.
Suomela. The guy who you signed in 2017 because he had good potential and he was a trade chip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was everyone's comment about that for like EA Games legend.
So, but Dave Rittich accomplishes something very important for the Leafs playoff success that they hope to have, and that is
no Michael Hutchinson.
It keeps Michael Hutchinson that much further out of the net.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps Michael Hutchinson out of the net, and I wonder if we know Freddie's not coming back. Like after this year, you have to think that Dubas might want to keep David Rittich depending on how he looks. Like he did play last night, and he did admit himself it was very weird playing his former team 2 days after or a day after he got traded. I wonder if maybe he's thinking of this is the guy he wants to move forward with after this season as well.
Fair enough. I don't know how exactly the transition to Ben Hutton, because I just can't stop thinking about that video of him singing Barbie Girl, playing with his hair when it's you can comb my hair, and then undoing a button on his shirt. He's a rock star.
He is. Funny thing about Ben Hutton, I was talking to someone about Ben Hutton. We were talking about what the Leafs had done at the deadline, and I'd remembered this was pre-podcast when he was let go when the Canucks didn't qualify him. I'm like, hey, I think the Leafs should pick him up because the Leafs did. To be fair, the Leafs didn't have a great defense at the time, and there was still potential there. It felt like from what I had read, Ben Hutton could be a very good, at least bottom guy, and things didn't necessarily pan out, but I really do like this move. Like we said, it's one more guy to put between Martin Marincin and NHL ice.
Mm-hmm.
The price not bad at all. Like I think Ben Hutton was someone that he just really filled it. He fills his role really well, and I'm I'm pretty comfortable if he could come into the lineup here and there. He is someone that he's been pretty reliable with things. I admit his qualifying offer with the Canucks was pretty high, but he's been able to bounce back from it. I know that he had to do a PTO with the Ducks, but he rebuilt his value there.
He was gonna make it. He was gonna. It's funny when I saw Ben Hutton. I still thought he was in LA for some reason. That's a guy who you hope gets a permanent home somewhere. He's just been bouncing around.
And I've said it before. I love his character. I love what he brings to the locker room.
I love when somebody has just personality, period, in the NHL. Why not? Anything else on the Leafs deadline you guys want to touch on?
I don't think
they done good.
Yeah. I think there's consensus for the first time in a while among Leaf fans that it was Kyle Dubas did a good job.
Oh yeah.
Even I know some people wanted Hall over Foligno, but I think they would recognize that he did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't happen often.
They're set. Like I think they're built for going into war in a way. Like they're built for playoff hockey. And this is the most I've kind of could say for this since 2002.
They have reserves.
Exactly.
Yes, they have the guys that are going to go out there and get into the dirty areas. Like they have this team where, again, if I mentioned before, if they were to face Boston again, like this team would have been ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's the measuring stick. Boston Bruins. I hate them. We all do. Okay, the Habs.
But we're okay. Boston pizza.
Yeah, I do love Boston pizza. It is good.
It's pretty pricey though.
Yeah, it is. You know what? Domino's is all right too. Get some thin crust cheese, especially for race week. Because Grand Prix Imola coming up this weekend. Love to see it.
That is true.
Okay. The Habs had a quiet, busy deadline. They waived Victor Mete. He was claimed by Ottawa. How the hell Buffalo did not think to claim him is beyond me. But unfortunately, he stayed. He follows Mike Riley's shoes, actually, of sticking around with the Sens after the Habs were done with him. Cheeky bastard. I'm gonna miss Victor Mete, though. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. He had an interesting career. He showed up right out of junior, though. Maybe that's a guy at the same time, though. Maybe it would have been better if we had an AHL system where he could have just went down. But it took like 3 seasons for him to score a goal. Yeah, he needed to change the scenery. And you know what? I think there's worse places to go to than like where the Sens are going to. Like, good for them to claim him.
As long as he doesn't go to Boston next, then I think I'll be okay.
Nah.
Well, because Mike Riley went to Boston, right? So as long as he doesn't follow that path.
Quite good pickup, by the way, for the Bruins. Like a third? Maybe a little pricey on the draft order, but again, he's pretty invisible sometimes. Big issue.
No, I think that's a interesting claim by Ottawa, considering like the guys they do have coming very, very soon. Right?
Mm-hmm. Daniel,
where he fits.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go, Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
I finished.
Oh, okay. No worries. I like Victor Mete. I think he's one of those players. And again, I'm going to use an EA Sports analogy kind of thing. He's one of the guys you get in the later rounds, and he'll show like defensive defenseman, but like he'll be like a 74, 72 when you draft him, but that's his like ceiling. Like he'll go up to maybe a 77 or like an 80 if you play him a lot. But that's what you get with him. Like by the time, like either if he's like 20 or he's 25, that's what you get with Victor Mete. So I liked his personality with the Habs. I really kind of thought that he was just going to be a long-time fixture on that third pairing. But given COVID, the way depth goes these days, it's kind of interesting because I thought he was the most cost-effective guy there. But of course, like they didn't really see it that way, and it's not going to hurt them too much. But it's a weird feeling at the time right now because you still look at his age and the amount of games he's already played that it was interesting that he was placed on waivers.
Mm-hmm. especially earlier in the season, like they tried very hard to keep him. And I mean, like he did request a trade.
That's
Like
true.
everyone understood the place that the Habs are in with their bodies. Frolik never complained once, and he's played once.
Did he request a trade? Did we ever figure that out? Because his agent apparently said he did, and then Bergevin said he didn't.
Meta? Yeah, he do. He
did.
Friedman's not going to say that on headlines without having any sort of confirmation about it.
No, I know. I know. Just because Bergevin denied it, and
No.
I mean Treliving kind of did the same thing, and just they both happened to Bennett and Mete both happened to have that sneaky old agent.
Yeah. Well, fine. Hey, he's gone. Yeah, I'm going to miss him. I hope he does well, though. It's just he needs to actually work on what he can do in the offensive zone as a defenseman, because I don't like him defending. I feel like there are too many mental lapses sometimes. But again, because of his age, yeah, you can iron those out pretty easily, I'd say. Again, they take longer defensemen. 26, you'll know what he is. So another young puck mover for the Sens. Good pickup for them. And then we look at some of the actual pickups the Habs made. We had it last show, but now we've actually had some time to actually look at it. The first, John Merrill. I did not realize this guy is actually pretty good when it comes to shutting down chances in his own zone. And I forgot he was on Vegas too. Really, with great hair, a real mullet. Not people saying long hair is a mullet. He actually has the short in the front, party in the back.
He's a Lou guy. Like he's a Lamorello type of guy. Where,
Yeah, you can totally. Did he grow this the moment he got out of New Jersey? Like the moment Lou left?
probably, yeah. I don't know. Like he was those. Like I remember when the Devils were kind of sparse on the prospects. He was a guy where they were kind of stashing the NCAA, and he was kind of hyped up to be, one of, not like a Scott Stevens or Scott Niedermayer, but like he was one of like those really solid, like a Johnny Oduya type of defenseman where you're very patient with him.
It's like, listen, he was a +2 with Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, and plus minus, like, you have to be careful looking at that. But if you're on a team that, you're going to look up their goal differential quickly, and you are that, like we'll talk about Gustafsson in a second, but he really is the sort of polar opposite player of Gustafsson. Like, not a lot of offense to speak of, but like you can trust him. And the way Montreal have been playing in their own zone this year, I think it's a really like smart, clean bargain pickup for Bergevin, which we all know is his speciality.
They're -41.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Wow. So that is very impressive. John Merrill. Yeah, I think I did like the John Merrill pickup, because what it does is, I think if one of the guys on the left side go down, and I think a guy like Sherratt or a guy like Edmondson, I think John Merrill's the type of guy you can slot right in there and not miss a whole, like maybe he's not as good as the guys that I mentioned, but I think he's a very suitable seventh defenseman you can slot into a team that is looking to make a deep playoff run.
See, I think he's a bit more than that. I say that because I think the way it looks that obviously Sherratt should be back soon, apparently. Superman recovery. It's weird. Like, I think he's an 82 game defenseman, like reading what I've read. The sense is he's playing on the third pairing of Romanov when all is said and done, which I like, because like Romanov, I feel like playing with like Mete and Kulak, those are guys that like to jump up. And I feel like you can, like, they're hesitant to play Romanov at 3-on-3. It's like, man, that's the explosiveness type of player you want. And I feel like if you can get him more comfortable in a 60-minute sort of game, like being comfortable offensively, like he's not afraid to shoot the puck, I think Merrill's a really, really good partner. Like, that was one thing I was questioning at the start of the season, was who is Romanov going to play with? And I was really hoping they would get a more steady right-handed defenseman. Instead, they've decided to play Romanov on the right, as we know, and he's been good at it. The real question I have of where a certain player is going to go is Eric Gustafsson. Now, I'm like not like a seventh for Eric Gustafsson, who was a few years removed from 60 points. He still has put up like decent offensive numbers in Calgary. Even this year on Philly, like his stay-at-home game is nothing. We don't care about that. Like that's not his game. You don't want him to be a complete liability, but if you play him with a defensive guy, you can make it work.
He's a fourth forward.
Yeah, like I think we've spoken very highly of Gustafsson over the past couple of years. I like in a healthy lineup though. I'm wondering where he would fit because I really would like to see what he can do on the power play, aka kick Shea Weber off and give him a chance. I think that could be a good option. It's just I'm trying to think. They're not going to take Sherrod out. You can't take Edmondson. You're not taking Petrie or Weber off.
No.
Like that's the one guy who is probably going to be fighting. It is Gustafsson. Because at the same time, you don't want to take Romanov out. Like I thought he played lights out against the Leafs. Like that's the type of defenseman you're going to want in the playoffs. So like I do have questions with Gustafsson. That's one thing that's bugging me. Like good pickup for nothing.
Right. Like it was a seventh. Like what? It's a seventh round pick, man. Like I guess. Yeah. And don't they have like they already had like 3 of them at the time?
Yeah.
Kind of just. Yeah, you're right. I thought Gustafsson was one of the guys when they were looking for a left-handed puck-moving defenseman that they should have gone after. So to finally see Montreal get them is bittersweet at the moment, but it'd be interesting where they put him next to, because I don't know, you can't put him really next to Petrie because
God, please don't.
Be a little messy. I don't know if you can put him next to Weber. Like, I guess you tell Weber to back off a bit in terms of pushing.
Yeah, which would help.
Which would help. Like, he's not moving as up and down as often. Maybe for the time being, who's playing next to Weber right now with
Brett Kulak?
So
it was Edmondson, but they finally realized that was a disaster, and now it's Kulak.
So maybe that's where he slots in for now until Ben Sherratt comes back, and we'll see what version of Eric Gustafsson Montreal gets.
Again, I've said it before. Like Montreal, they have options. Have a lot of options, like wherever they gotta go with things. So it'll be interesting how they juggle everything.
Like Evans is out of the lineup now because Armia looks to be back, and it's just like, man. It's frustrating. We can sort of transition to the Leafs game here because I thought Montreal played like the second game against the Leafs is like, okay, there they are. That's the team we know and love. Okay. Yeah. Like I thought they were, again, it was almost like that away side of the ice, but this time at the Bell Center was a little like fantastic first period. You expected the Leafs to come back and push in the second, and the Habs obviously they need to get the lead. So getting those 2 goals early were massive because you knew the Leafs were going to score. Like I wasn't surprised when they tied the game up because like this is how this works. But it was just the Habs I thought played a really, really strong game. It's like this is what they need to freaking be. And by the way, the empty net fiasco at the end of the game I thought was hilarious. Like let's just keep trying to let's do 7 straight icings because no one can bury the puck here.
Yeah, that game. I mean, I guess from a Leafs standpoint, I wasn't very impressed with them. Like I was watching with Mike. This is the only time ever I've seen him leave early, so that should tell me. That tells me something. I thought Montreal played I was very impressed with Montreal. It looked like the team I expect them to be. Is that fair?
Oh yeah.
I think they're rallying in a way. Like they have so many of those injuries that what we said before is like what they need to do to win, despite the fact that they're going to have a few cracks in their lineup right now. And they've been doing it pretty well. Jake Allen's been solid. That reworked first line, it's been really solid. Like Philip Deneau is, as we've said before, the theme, he's there. He's playing his game again, and that depth is showing up again with those 3 scoring lines.
Can I talk about the Leafs for a second?
Sure.
No, the one thing, last thing I have to say about the Leafs from that game, I guess in particular, is that I'm glad they were still in that game, even though they weren't playing well, which tells me even when they're not able to score, or it looks like they're not able to score, their defensive game has improved that much. Because last year that game was a wash,
Hmm.
right? There's no it's 3-2 for or whatever 2-2 for stretches. It's, well, you know what? Defensively, whoever's in net's going to have to come up huge. I don't know if that was necessarily the same. Like Campbell was very impressive, and it's unfortunate he lost, and he's got to stop blaming it on himself. This is it hurt. It
He has
hurts
the
to
red.
watch.
He
It
has the
hurts to
Red Lobster
watch.
sponsorship now, though.
Does it not hurt to watch every time? Like in not
It was a
that it,
bit puppy dog. Like,
right.
man.
It's like, man, like clearly it wasn't you. Like, go watch that game again.
You know, at least it's a change. Like you didn't at least say we just didn't get the bounces tonight or something.
It was like, listen, it was, what were the goals? A bounce off Galchenyuk. Love to see it. Love to see it so much.
Forgets his side.
The power play where Suzuki has been scoring on that spot all year, like shooting confidence does wonders for Quebec. And then a 2-on-1 with Josh Anderson, who had been killing stuff all night. That's not his fault. And again, he may have been scoring on Suzuki, but there was that time when Suzuki walked in the middle of the ice, and Campbell stopped him. And then there were a couple of Canadians you don't want in on tight. Sorry, that you don't want in tight. Suzuki's one of them, and Campbell stoned him. I thought he was really, really good. I thought he was better than Jake Allen. I don't know why he was so hard on himself. It's a bit like, I was like, man, just can the boys just go up to him and be like, listen, like a friendly just slap him and be like, it's not your fault.
Shake him.
Sorry, man. You won 11 straight. Like, you're good.
Yeah.
You're all right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for me on the Leafs, at least.
Okay. A note on the Russian Panda, by the way, Alexander Romanov. When he dropped Mitch Marner, I think it was in the third open ice in Montreal's zone. And then he was against the boards of Matthews, and it was just like, what was that video you sent of like that Panda like just destroying
never say no to Panda.
Yeah. Matthews was like, I don't want to lose, and Romanov was like, you've chosen death, and was just mauling him. It's like
he didn't buy the cheese. Like
there's some stuff where you're like, I want to be, just a good game of hockey and that. But then like obviously with the Leafs and Habs, you're like, I want blood. Yeah. And I want Romanov to just go off here. And I am so excited that if the Canadians can make the playoffs, which these next few games against Calgary are going to really solidify if they're going to make it or not.
Yeah.
It's looking good, but you want to get the insurance. I can't wait to see what a Romanov can look like. And again, Josh Anderson too. Really strong game, I thought. Really, really strong. Was just him on the rush is just such a joy to watch. And you can't knock him off the puck is something I love about the guy. And in a 7-game series against the Leafs, I'm going to be really excited to see what he can do.
This podcast is going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the bridge.
Yes. Anything else, lads, we want to talk about before we get going here?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Everyone bring up the Twitter.
Just one thing. The Marlies have had their facilities shut down due to COVID. Let's see if I can find the tweet. It's from Chris Johnston. I lost it.
Well, hopefully they're all well.
Toronto Marlies are being shut down through next Wednesday because of a COVID situation. So hopefully everything is all right with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to imagine there's some connection to the Leafs here, like making sure that they're also all negative because of, bringing Sabrin up and Robertson, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we hope everyone is okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wishing them the best.
Yeah. All right, lads. I think that's everything.
Oh, one more thing before you do the ending, because we do have TikTok.
Oh yeah, we
That's
do.
the
Yes,
one
we do.
thing. I forgot to bring it up at the beginning of the show. We had the first post up yesterday. It was the preview from last episode. But yeah, try put some stuff on TikTok.
Mhm.
Still learning.
I need to stop dropping things. All right, well, and again, before we go, keep emphasizing it. Get well soon, everyone on the Marlies. COVID is still a thing, people. Never forget. My friends, don't do it. Maybe it would be better if a certain member of government was figuring stuff out. Anyway, check out the TikTok, the Twitter, the Facebook, the podcast on Spotify, on iTunes. Leave it a 5-star review. Thank you to VoiceEd for always as being a fantastic platform for the show. Check out all our social medias, my YouTube channel, Alex's blog, Daniel's stuff for the eye opener, all of that. Lovely, lovely stuff. What did you think of the deadline? We'd love to know, and you can let us know in so many ways, including leaving a comment on the YouTube version of this show when you can see all our beautiful faces, are where Alex looks like an equipment trainer, Daniel looks like a TA, well, he normally is one. And I undid my hair tie at the end of the show, so you can look at that. That's it. And we will see you Sunday, and we'll talk a little bit of Formula One because the Imola Grand Prix is happening.
Thanks,
Let's go.
guys.
Whoa.